Hello, everyone. This is Mxiety, and I'm on tonight with the incredible Nichole Coyne, who is a therapist and who will introduce herself in a little bit. But she is here to talk to us about learning from our childhood trauma and what we can do in our adulthood to kind of move through it and get past it and steps that we can take, but also speaking about it generally, like how much it sucks and stuff like that. We have a bunch of questions we're going to be answering through the stream and from Twitter before. Nichole, take it away. Tell us all about yourself.
No pressure. Hi, guys.
No pressure.
I'm Nicole. I am a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Florida. So that basically means that I am a therapist and a traditional social worker and wear a lot of hats throughout the day. I have a master's in clinical social work and had to do an internship for what I do and a lot of free hours for what I do. But right now I'm working for one company, and then I have a private practice, and I'm doing that completely virtual, and I can provide therapy to anybody within the state of Florida.
Oh.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now, but I have a lot of experience within the field and have worked for a lot of different places. I've worked from everything from Big Brothers Big Sisters to
Oh.
Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, to private practice beforehand. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really glad that you're doing this, because this is the most important thing, is awareness, and this is what wakes me up in the morning. So this is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad that I'm glad that you're excited to be here. So I kind of want to dive right into it because childhood trauma is something. I mean, the reason that we wanted a guest on that would talk about this, and the reason that Summer Love is absolutely a badass and just like jumped right into it and was like, I know who you should talk to, was the fact that a lot of people come in, and one of the first things that they talk about is they're like, I have a lot of baggage. I come with a lot of stuff from my childhood that sucks, and people carry it. It's no longer like a Freudian cliche to say that people, childhood trauma like carries into adulthood. Like it's a known thing. And a lot of us then end up hurting other people as a result of that, right? As we learn to figure out ourselves without, like, how do I put down this baggage in order to do what I'm supposed to do as like a human adult and all that. And so is there kind of immediately, I guess my first question to you would be, is there, what is the correlation between childhood trauma and then like issues in adulthood?
Well, so childhood trauma is really interesting because it kind of it sets the stage for the way your psyche is going to be for pretty much the rest of your life, right? Your earliest relationships, your earliest connections, your earliest beliefs. And so when we have a child that comes in for any type of treatment or therapy or interventions to overcome something, we really have to assess where that kiddo is right at that moment, because this can later on have these very isolating effects and, can really cause some serious harm and damage. And I'm sure you guys all are, and I'm sure you do too, Marie, like you definitely watch certain types of documentaries and stuff like that. And a lot of them come down to like, this child was abused, reasons why this child did X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so starting from that trauma and starting to kind of unveil what we need to deconstruct, like to really help these people, prevents us from having a lot of those secondary issues later on in life.
Got it. So, I mean, I know that there are efforts right now, like, for example, the state of California has made it mandatory that children are screened during their doctor's visits for the ACEs, right? Do I have that right? I'm actually asking. I'm not being facetious.
I'm not sure what the acronym is for it, but I think what you're talking about is there's a trauma assessment tool that is utilized for kiddos to see where they fall on a spectrum of how much trauma they're experiencing. And I know that they're trying to implement this more and more. And thank goodness, right? Like,
Right.
This needs to be talked about big time. You know, I was reading something the other day and they were saying 90% of the reason people go to the doctor's office is primarily because of psychological issues. And yeah.
I
And
believe it.
so,
Yeah.
you know, there's a huge disparity here, right? Because mental health has a stigma towards it. And then also kiddos are very hard to treat a lot of the times, but with this assessment tool, they're trying to decide if these kids are going to need ongoing treatment, what that's going to look like, what are some of the different things that we can add into our curriculum to try to help them. And go California, you know, I'm all about that because that really needs to be addressed.
So it's an interesting point that Talis brings up, I think, in chat, and she's talking about the fact that like in a poorly executed manner, it could be that like the wrong kids are taken away from their families. And I guess this is always the question. This is always kind of the negative stuff that you hear that social workers end up getting flack for, which is taking away kids from parents who like the kids end up doing worse because there's more trauma in being taken away from the only family you know than potentially whatever it is. So like how does that assessment necessarily happen? How do you determine like it's better for them to stay with this family even though the family might be impoverished and not doing well versus no, it's safer for this kid to be out of this family and into a foster home or whatever it is?
Okay, I'm going to start off with the disclosure first, and then I'm going to.
Please.
Yeah. So, first of all, when I say I'm a licensed clinical social worker, that kind of means that I wear a lot of different hats.
Okay.
And so, in the regard that I can be a DCF or DCFS or DSS or whatever your acronym in your state is or place is, I can be that type of social worker. That's traditional social work.
Mm-hmm.
I can also be a therapist, right? I can also be a probation officer. I can also be a couple different.
I didn't even know this. This is okay.
Yeah. So, and that's honestly, so I have a master's in social work and I went for focus in mental health because I kind of always knew I'd have a job because mental health is always going to exist. And B, I couldn't pick what I exactly wanted to do when I was in my master's. And I had like passions for everything. So when I'm answering this question, my disclosure is that every case is different and specific. And I'm not a DCF social worker.
Okay.
And I haven't been one. I've worked with DCF for years and years and years. I've been contracted with them. I've also filed reports. Their job, and when they're making a lot of these decisions about trauma and what's happening in the home, is based off of mitigating factors. So these are things that are happening in the home that can cause substantial harm to that child, right? So we can't really be like, okay, well, why are they making these decisions? Every situation is completely different. And the whole idea is that these people are trained and ethically aware enough to make these decisions to take these children out. Is that a case 100% of the time? Absolutely not. And I don't think you'll ever find a social worker that's like, yeah, we're perfect at this. No, we're not perfect at this. And your friend, I'm sorry, what's her name?
This is Talis. Talis was the one who asked the question. Yeah.
I thought it was Talia. I apologize.
It's okay. They're really weird internet names to give you all the credit. Like, honestly.
That's fine. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're hard. They're really hard.
You know, that's a great point because a lot of the time there are a lot of situations, and even I've seen in individual private practice that kids have been taken out of the home and it did more harm than good. And that happens, right? And that's a trauma. That's a trauma to be taken away from your family or your loved one. It's a trauma to the parent. It's a trauma to the kids. So when that decision is getting made, it is really about what is actually happening day in and day out. It's not that there are very limited cases, I will say, that there's just a social worker that walks in, swoops up, takes the kid and walks out the door. Right. It's very limited. Right. And I worked in a hospital, and as soon as you walk in and you say, oh, I'm a social worker, you know, people would hold their kid closer to you. I'm like, no. I am not here to do that. Would you like a meal ticket? You know, like I would give different options to just try to open up because what I was doing is providing resources, and that's what I was there for.
Got it.
So, I hope that answered the question.
No, that answers the question as well as you can from where you're looking at it, and it helps us understand better the distinction. So this is great. Yeah. Yeah, and in Talus's case, I also think it's important to note that like there's danger in anything, and you're talking about human beings making decisions. So sometimes they're going to be the wrong decisions, and I think
100%.
that's unfortunately where I think we can leave that. So why is it important to you kind of touched upon this when you said that people mostly come for emotional issues more so than they come for physical issues to their doctors. So why is it important specifically to talk about childhood trauma? Like, why is the cliche that I come into a therapist's office and they're like, tell me about your childhood? Like, what? That's not actually, I have to be clear that I want to say maybe one time of 5 therapists that I've seen in my life, maybe one time that's been the question that was asked, and it was not the first one.
I'm
But
so glad to hear that.
yeah, yeah, no, I've been kind of blessed. I've had one really bad therapist, and then the other ones have been like okay, and then the one I have now is like the holy grail, and I will never
Yeah,
let it
and
go.
you know, I do ask this question a lot, and I even ask a lot of my really close friends. Like, we talk about their childhood. And the reason that this is so important is kind of what I was saying before, and this is setting the stage, right? So the way you believe things, the way you perceive what's coming to you, the way you understand your world is built in those early years. If you are interested in psychology at all or have a psychology degree, you know that when you're sitting in these classes, you're like, why are we talking about these stages again from toddlers and babies and all these different things? And I was in my bachelor's and I had a child development class and I was a psych major. And so a lot of the times I would be kind of bored in my childhood
Sure.
development class
Yeah, I
because
took childhood development as well, and it was kind of because a lot of it seems self-explanatory to me. Like, don't if you hit a kid between these ages, it's particularly traumatic. But don't hit
exactly
them, period, because that's not a good idea. Yeah,
right. And pretty much throughout your life, being hit is going to be pretty traumatic, I would assume.
pretty bad. Yeah, yeah,
So, but in that class, it was really interesting because a lot of what it was telling us is that everything you experience right now as a kiddo is going to have an effect later on. Unless you have a physical trauma or brain trauma where you can't remember your childhood, you're bound to some of those things that occur. And the reality is that if you don't start working through processing, managing, and focusing on what is going on here and how you're involved in your environment, they keep coexisting. They keep going on, and it's not healthy a lot of the times. And sometimes we try to I have a lot of patients that come in that justification is a big thing, right? They negotiate with themselves what this looks like in their life, and that may or may not be healthy in what they pick. So if that is part of their process, that's completely fine, but let's make sure that you're doing it with where you want to go and not doing it with unhealthy negative coping or bad behaviors.
got it, got it. Uh, and so again, if any experience is traumatic, like, is it just because you're going to carry it for the rest of your life? Is it the fact that you are completely helpless as a kid? Like, what is it about being what I hear from you is that I cannot just take a childhood experience, shove it deep down into the recesses of my mind and never think about it again. That's what I'm hearing. Is that right? Am I quoting you correctly?
In a nutshell, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't have a job if that was that easy to just do and just move on. The reality of a lot of these situations is perspective. Mm-hmm. And we are all living in this world, and we are having our own perspective. We're having our own perspective of how things play out. We're having our own perspective of how we exist. And trauma is hugely about perspective, right? You and I could be driving in the car together and get in the exact same accident, and you experience it totally different than how I experience it.
Right.
And that perspective bases a lot of our core beliefs and where we were in that moment and how vulnerable we were to situations, and then also results in the effects that occur. So, all these things that play out, it could be a really different situation, right? But we can experience it differently. And if we don't work on it, it's not going to get better. I say this one thing pretty regularly, nothing changes if nothing changes. Right. And that's so true. You have to want to have this change exist in your life and get better and have a different perspective on it to do that, to move past it.
The situation that comes to my mind is I have a friend, a very good friend, who actually lost his twin brother to suicide when they were 14 years old. And his entire family went through therapy and could not deal with it. And I have talked to him face to face, and we are close friends. And I've had some very deep discussions with him. And he's like, I went into a therapist office and I was just like, I'm good. And it blew my brain, because how could that be? Like, I'm sitting here with all these like years of trauma that I've like poured through, and nothing like that happened to me. Like, I'm not trying to minimize my experience or anything, or his, but like, I imagine if that happened to me, I'd be traumatized the heck out of me. But he's like, I tried to go to therapy. There was one point where I tried medications, and he's like, I was the same with it and without it. And I was coping okay. And so I decided that like, I didn't need to do that anymore. And he never was in a situation where he's like, and then it came up this way. Like, he knew, I guess, like the way his mind worked was just able to compartmentalize that correctly. Like, how is it? I think to me, it's more curious. How is it possible for somebody to not be traumatized over something that happens in their childhood versus somebody who is? Like, is that, because I say the same thing that you say. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And like, you cannot shove your feelings deep down and nothing happens to them. So like, was he just capable of dealing with it over the way like other people? Sorry, I will let you talk now.
No, it's okay. No, this is good. So one perspective, right? Your friend probably has a different perspective of what played out than either the rest of his family or an outsider in that position. Suicide is really interesting because the core beliefs and values that come up for a person when they lose somebody to suicide can be very challenging. But also a lot of the times, if your friend knew was it his brother?
Yeah, it was his twin brother.
His twin brother. He knew his brother, and he almost knew him in such an intimacy because they shared genetics. So he might have just gone, you know what? I'm just going to move past this. But hold on though, too, because he has lots of time.
Right.
Trauma is really interesting in how it sits in our brains, right? I want you to think of it as, I give you a shoebox and you have all these traumas in your head, and you have them as seeds, right? Like basically like flower seeds, and we put them in the shoebox and we bury them out in the backyard, and we go, okay, we're done, right?
That'd be so nice.
That'd be so cool, right?
That'd be the best. Right? Nobody would have trauma. The world would be so much nicer.
And if I could just dig holes all day.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you push it out there and then you walk away from it, right? Mm-hmm. What ends up happening though later is you and I go to the window and I go, look outside, right? There's stuff growing everywhere. Like the whole backyard is just a totally jungle. It's just completely.
Well, yeah, shit's growing. Shit's wild.
Everywhere. And we go, do you want to handle this, or do you want to just keep putting them in a box and leaving them there? And I utilize that metaphor a lot within therapy, because therapy and counseling for trauma is not about just overcoming it. It's not about, you're going to wake up one day, there's this amazing cure for it, this is how this works, just take this pill. None of those things are the reality. You have to go through it. And you really have to be able to process the situation and appreciate the process, because it sucks. Yeah. And it's not easy, and it takes a lot of hard work. So for your friend, he might right now not be in a space where he is totally feeling like he has a lot of strong emotion towards it, and he's not experiencing a lot of negative effects or negative symptomology because of it. That's fine. He doesn't need anything right now. But I'm sure he's not 75 years old, right?
Right.
Okay. So there's time, right? And
Yeah.
that's how trauma's tricky, right? You never really know when your garden's going to grow in the backyard, but it might come up. And in that moment, and when you do start to realize some of those things come up for you, you need to go get help. You need to go talk to somebody.
Yeah. I I really love your garden metaphor, because I've actually written an article and that was the metaphor I used, and I talked about like the trauma that my parents inflicted upon me, and I talked about it from the perspective of like they had given me these seeds of the trauma, and then I had planted them like because I was a kid and I was just tending my garden of whatever thoughts, right? And so I plant these seeds, and what comes out is like this thorny, ugly looking tree, because it's not going to be beautiful because it's deformed by what it is. Like that's what grew out of the seed. There's nothing else that could have come out of it. And so what I talked about is the difference between like I came to my parents and I said, look at what you've made. Like this made me, you did this thing and it made me feel this way and it made me feel terrible. And so I show them the tree and I say, here's this ugly deformed tree. What do you want to do about it? And so in my case, my parents said, that's a fine tree to me. It sounds like your tree to deal with. All right, bye. You know, whereas, you know, in some cases parents will be like, oh, that's messed up. Let me help you dig this tree up. We're going to get it out of here and we're going to plant a new one. We're going to start tending to it together and it's going to be better. Right. So I love your garden metaphor because it like very much coincides.
I know, that was really on point.
right. It like really coincides with that. Yeah, prune it and graft some roses. Exactly. And so I like that idea. Do you think it is, I mean, we're not here to like dissect my parents because you're not my therapist, but sure. Do you think it is up to when childhood trauma happens, how do you, might be a long answer, but how do you come to terms with the fact that like the people who inflicted this trauma on you might never, ever take ownership over it and might just say like, this was like, you were too sensitive. You were always a weird kid. I don't get what you're coming at. Like, how do you come to terms with the fact that like, now this is my trauma. I have to deal with it no matter who inflicted it on me.
I think a part of what I would work to uncover is why it is so important for you to have validation from your abuser in that sense, right? Like, what is it really about them coming to terms with it versus you being strong and aware enough to be like, you know what? You screwed up, but at the same time, maybe they're just not capable,
right,
of coming to terms with this, right? Because as a parent, I'm not a parent. I have a furry dog that I love very much.
Oh, I do too. I have a fur baby. Yeah,
that's my whole world is that Luna girl. But you know, as a parent, you struggle with, let me give this example real quick, because this, I don't know why, but this has been on my mind a lot lately, and maybe because this was coming up. I had a kiddo that came into counseling. Actually, so the mom came in and basically told me something's going on with my daughter. And I think she was somewhere between this was quite a few years ago, but she was somewhere between the age of like 6 and 8, right around that stage. And she says, you know, her father and I are going through a separation, but we've mostly been separated throughout our relationship. And I really want her to come see you because I feel like some of the things she's going through, she really needs to start processing now.
Okay.
Cool. Bring her in. No problem. So we did about 4 sessions, and this kiddo was not having it with me. And I was doing play therapy. I mean, we were playing Uno like it was my job. And there's a lot of things that I was just trying to do to even get her to initiate conversation with me. And it was probably the 4th or 5th session that I didn't ask the kiddo to come back. And I said, Mom, come on back. Let's chat for a few minutes. And I said to Mom, I said, listen, I go, you're doing a really good job here, you know, but kiddo's not ready to talk about this. And so it's really important that right now we don't set that precedent to where she says, this lady forced me to talk to her, right? And as a parent, she's trying everything she can to get this kiddo help where she thinks she needs help, but I'm a stranger. Right. So the idea of whether or not the parent is able and has the capacity, or the caregiver is really what I should say, because it's not always just your parent that causes these inflictions, but has the capacity to really recognize and take ownership of what's occurred, is kind of the readjustment that we have to make as people, right? It is not our responsibility to fix everybody. It's our responsibility and our own desires to make the change that we want to see. But why is it so important that we get them to acknowledge what they did? Is it about that, or is it really about, you know what, I know what happened to me, I know how it affected me, I know where I'm at in my life because of it, I see how good I've been doing, or that I'm making a process and improving, let's move on. And you're right, there are some parents that are going to go, because this mom looked at me like I was out of my mind when I was like, don't bring her back, you know, like in a couple years, fine, no problem, but like don't bring her back. And do that for
because
her.
She thinks in her head, and the way we've socially been constructed, like, you have an emotional problem, you know, you have a physical problem, you go to the doctor, they give you medication, you're done. You know, you have an earache, you're done. You have a brain problem, I must be able to bring her to a therapist, and she's gonna make that problem go away. I don't want my kid to be suffering anymore. What are you telling me, that I have to like wait for this to get to a certain point? That does not comprehend, does not tie in with how we see the rest of the world, which is fascinating to me.
And I think the worst thing that you can do to anybody is force them into therapy before they're ready. You know, like mandated therapy was kind of the most resistance that I had for wanting a session, which, I mean, in the sense of, I worked with a lot of people that were mandated to come to treatment for court reasons, legal reasons, kiddo reasons, whatever. And, you know, they would be so angry. And I'm like, okay, like, let's just take that off. Let's just talk about your day. You know, like, I'm just a person. Come on, let's keep going with this. And, you know, it's not about forcing. It's about gaining the acceptance to go, you know what, I need some darn help. And like, let's get this together because I want to get better.
Yeah.
I can see the chat moving, but I can't read that fast.
It's okay. Last time I went to see a therapist, we just sat there in total silence for 60 minutes. Emperor's Titan, that's rough. That must have been rough. I can't imagine what's going through that poor therapist's mind.
No, that's called leaning into the uncomfortable. And that is important. That is an important session. And the reason that's important is because sometimes it's okay to not have anything to say, but to share space. Right now, I'll just use this as a side of my day. Sure. I work for hospice right now. And I had 2 admissions today, right? Like, so new patients. And I shared space with somebody that is about to lose somebody they love more than anybody in this world. And I shared that space with her. And I cannot tell you what that does for somebody, but other than like just having this comfort, right? Like having somebody sit there and literally go to you, where are you at right now? And be that support person. So the silence, although it's uncomfortable, although there's a lot going on, you can communicate in all kinds of ways. It does not require you to have a full-blown open conversation. It's about sharing that space. It's about leading into the uncomfortability. I had a patient that came in for 2 years in therapy to cry. She cried the whole session, all 50 minutes of the session.
Oh my God, I think you're my therapist.
But you know what?
But I joke, but like, I used to do like a days without incident. Like, how many appointments can I go to my therapist without breaking down crying? And I mean, it's usually good. Like, I was usually because I was having a breakthrough, or I was being like, giving myself the space. I don't know. This sounds like maybe what happened with your patient, but like, that was the only space I had to cry, to let myself have emotions. Because I was so like, had to put on a front, had to be tough, had to be like, I don't have room for this crying. So then when I'd get there, I'd be like, Oh my God, everything is actually really overwhelming. This is the only place where I can.
Floodgates.
Yes, floodgates. Exactly. Exactly.
And you know what was crazy too is that like this patient, every time her makeup would be running down her face, she's got to go back to work. And she's like, thank you so much. And I felt like a terrible therapist. I'm like, internally, I'm like, I am just the worst person in the world. Like,
it's so cathartic. I'm so grateful for my therapist for those sessions. Yeah.
But I'm sitting there like, do I get another box of tissues? Like, what should I offer her a makeup wipe? Like,
I mean, I don't know about your patient, but as a patient, when I cry, it's usually either like I finally let go, or it's me usually going, damn it, she's right. Like she's gonna, because the therapist will like walk you up to an idea and then let you take the last step. Like, and you think you feel that way and then you're like, oh fuck, it's because of the thing. I knew it. It's the thing, and I've been thinking about it, but I didn't want to admit it. Now I'm admitting it, and now the floodgates are open. Yeah. But I was so grateful because that was the only space where I could do that. So it's super, super important.
Yeah. And and even trauma work, any type of that work, that is your hour out of the week to possibly be the only time you're heard.
Yeah. Yeah. For some people, I imagine it's worse in those cases too. Yeah.
Yeah. And where I used to tell all my kiddos when they came in, especially, so I worked with a lot of foster kiddos and a lot. My whole morning was adults when I was in private practice in Massachusetts, and it was in person. And I can't see kiddos online because that's just it's not hugely ethical. I could see some adolescents, but there's a real confidentiality piece with online.
That's very confusing because I don't know that as a kid, like you're one-on-one with an adult, and there's a lot of weird gray lines there. I could see that.
Yeah. And one day, absolutely. One day it will be accessible. And actually, before I left Massachusetts, I'm in Florida. So before I left Massachusetts, they were working on having virtual sessions for kiddos in school. So you could literally go and see your therapist while you're at school. And I was like, oh my God, this is wonderful.
That makes a lot of sense because you're already in a safe environment. And so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And the school kind of covered confidentiality, right? Because like that's the other thing that you take a risk with young adolescents and stuff like that is just the confidentiality stance. I forgot where we started with this.
I don't honestly know either, but sessions, therapist, talking to your therapist, bursting out crying, it's the only safe space that you have in some cases. I'm going to rewind the whole tape.
Tangent.
Yeah, it's okay. I have ADHD, so my audience is very familiar with tangents. Nobody here is going to be like, what's she doing? You're fine. You're fine. So.
I got it.
Go.
So, one of the things I used to tell a lot of my foster kids when they came into the room and, they'd come after school or whatnot, is I said, leave it here. Whatever it is, whatever you're carrying around, I want you to think of it. Because for kiddos, it's really important too, to kind of have tangible, like they can see it and feel it and touch it and be that tactile source. And so I said, whatever it is that we're going to discuss today, you're going to leave it here. And you do not have to pick it up until next week. And even if you don't want to pick it up then, you don't have to do that. But this is your space to dump all that garbage, all that baggage, all that bullshit you can't carry around all week right here. And it's fine for it to stay here. I will preserve it. It will not go past this room. And that idea, I think, allowed kids with trauma to really just be able to have their whole week without carrying around this bag of trauma, this bag of negative feelings. And when we're talking about trauma, coming back to that a little bit more, the idea of trauma as a child is really setting the precedent for your inner critic. And that voice you hear in your head that is not super nice all the time, that's telling you you suck, you're doing this wrong, you're terrible at your job, you are a terrible mom, person, human, sister, brother, whatever you are. That inner critic becomes louder and louder and louder and louder. And for a trauma person, this now has an effect with everything you do. You've lost some of your security and some of your safety and how you feel within the world. You lose that that feeling of being okay with where you exist. And that's why you have to work on this. You know, that's why you have to come and see somebody and go, I don't know what the hell to do. Because I might not know off the bat what to do for you. And I'm not here to tell you what to do ever. No therapist is. We're here to guide you and help you and process and hold you through that process, really. You know, but we don't know where that's going. We don't think like, you know, about 12 sessions will be all swept and we'll just move on and they'll transfer, discharge or whatever.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We don't know that. I have patients I've worked with for years, you know, like that is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. So is trauma treatable?
Treatable, yes. Curable, no.
Okay. What would curable in this instance mean? Like, I forget that the fact that I had trauma, like it's gone out of my head forever and ever. Like, what is?
I mean, I think you're kind of going like Men in Black, right? Like,
yeah. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking. Do you have one of those? Did they hand them to you in therapy school? Because I would.
If I did, yeah. I would.
Do you think you would have amnesia yourself?
I don't even know if I would have a job or I would have a very high paying job. And I think that it's really important for us to come to the understanding that this isn't something like a disease in terms of the curability exists forever and ever. I think what we really need to come to understand with trauma is that it's manageable. Like that there is a manageable stance that you can take in this life to where you wake up and you're like, yeah, that just really doesn't bother me the way it used to. I kind of got through that. And the reality is that is so darn true. There's a lot of people, I've had a lot of patients come in and tell me these stories and I'm like, holy crap, how do you get up in the morning? You know, like that's mind blowing to me. And they're like, yeah, you know, I don't carry that with me all day. That's not what bugs me. And then they'll pull out 70 other things that bugs them, you know, and that we need to work on.
They're like, wait, hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, I'm still stuck on this story. Like, we need to go back for a second. But I think that learning how to overcome and deciding that you really want to put conscious effort into what you're doing and managing is really the cure. You know, I looked at one of your blog posts not too long ago.
You read my shit? That's embarrassing.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't read your shit, but I was looking through some of your stuff. I'm getting better on social media and you can ask.
You wanted to know who the hell's interviewing you. I'm totally teasing you. You're fine.
And not only that, but you can ask Summer Love. I am working on technology. I am very open to learning how to do
You're doing great on Insta. I loved it. Yeah.
Listen, that's all brand new and I've learned that.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
I don't give me too much credit for that. I'm texting somebody like, how do I do this?
You look like a natural. You look natural.
I appreciate that. I was reading one of your posts though, and it was about your like recovery, right? Mm-hmm. And I really liked it because you did a very good job of saying, you know, recovery is not defined as this box, right? Like, it's not like cancer where you're going to be in remission, right? Mm-hmm. You know that you'll go into remission or that you are in remission. Mm-hmm. Or it's not like alcoholism, right? Mm-hmm. Where I can tell you the number of days I've been without a glass of wine, a beer, liquor, whatever, right? Trauma doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just go, you know, it's been 30 days since I felt trauma. Or since I felt a negative reaction, or since I had a PTSD dream, or since I
can count. I actually can count that. Flashbacks. I no longer qualify for a diagnosis of PTSD, even though I came.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I didn't disappear into the ether, but I am one of those like people that I get to walk around and be like, yeah, you can get through PTSD and trauma. Like it happens. I'm not fully cured of it. It comes around Christmas time and all those like great moments where you should be happy. But like I can tell you the last time I had a flashback, and now that was actually I can't. So there you go. Screw me. I can't remember right now. I used to have a distinct date and now I can't even remember. So there's that.
That's okay. But the idea is that you're not going to wake up and just be better. You're going to wake up and be okay and not react so significantly to other things that are going on in your life. And that's really the difference. That's part of you learning how mentally to be stronger about different things. And trauma's weird though. Trauma will come up when you least expect it. A song, anything like that. You have no idea sometimes when you're like, oh shit, like where did this come from? And
fun times.
Yeah. You know, and it can be the smallest thing. So here, treatable, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And there is a part of you that really has to be accepting that you want to change and that you want to make that change. Because if you come in angry at your therapist and you're not ready to do the process, you're not ready to do the work.
Yeah,
that's really a core piece of it.
Yeah, this is beautiful. So we don't have too much time left with you, so I'm going to go into Q&A. Ready? Okay.
Set go.
Yeah. I believe in you too, Summer. Yes. I'm not one of those people that's like, if I can do it, you can do it too. What I am going to say is that if it's happened to me, there's a statistical probability that it could happen to you, right? Like if I learned how to handle my PTSD flashbacks and my trauma in a way that I am able to put it, like I know the way I used to describe it is that, like, you know, plastic bins, if you fill them with like blankets and stuff, they keep popping open. And so the way I used to describe it is like my PTSD was just like these bins full of these like blankets and towels and toys, and like they were overfilled. And every time I would open them and try to go through them with my therapist, she would be like, are you sure you're ready to go through this bin? And we go through the bin, and then like you put everything neatly away and suddenly all the bin closes. But when you're dealing with PTSD and like the worst part of it, or just trauma in general and the worst part of it, all the bins are flying open, they're falling off the shelves because there's too many of them on there, and like you gotta Marie Kondo that trauma.
I love her. Honestly, that's in therapy land, that's called flooding. And we have to be really, like, therapists need to be very cognizant of making sure patients don't flood, because I don't want you walking out of the room more unstable than when you walked in the room. The goal is not for that. Although it feels that way sometimes when we walk out of therapy. I understand that.
You know, I have never, and my therapist has asked me that. Like, she's been like, are you okay to leave and stuff? And every time, I think there was one time where I was like, I genuinely wasn't ready to leave. Otherwise, I've always been like, no, if that was a minute longer, I would have like fallen too far in.
Yeah.
But I don't, again, like that could be different. Could be different. Okay. All right. We're going to go to the Twitter sphere first and give everybody a little bit of time. Exclamation, the letter Q, to ask your questions in stream, please. But we are going to be collecting them. I'm going to be collecting them here. Okay. Here we go. Here we go.
Like this is the speed round.
It's like lightning. Do you listen to Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson by any chance?
I don't.
Okay. Well, it's kind of like lightning round questions, but not at all.
Okay. I can handle it.
So, Pep Talks asked, there you go. So there is this is kind of what we were talking about. And I guess if we could do it in a quick way, that's even better. Do you ever truly heal from childhood trauma, or will it always find a way to seep into your life, so much so that it feels uncontrollable at times?
I don't think there's a yes or no. I think that's a great answer. And the reason I say that is because, like I was saying before, in terms of being able to just be better one day, there are people that wake up and they're like, I am so all done with this. I don't need it in my life anymore. And they just move on. That does exist. There's a lot of people that can just do that. But in terms of, you know, will I carry this around all my life? Maybe, or maybe not, right? Like it really
depends. That's not what people want to hear. I need 5 easy steps. All right, this is not going to go viral if you don't give me 5 easy steps to stop having trauma.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
can't even get through that with a straight face. I'm so sorry. I'm
glad you
sorry.
can't, because I can't either, man. I wish that was simple enough.
Do you know there's some asshole out there writing that book right now? And they're making money. Yeah, 5 steps to get past your trauma and forget about it. And
I need to pre-order that then.
Yeah. What the hell are you doing talking about my book?
I know nothing. Obviously, we should have got him on here.
Yeah, whoever it is. I like that we presumed it's a man. I'm gonna.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said he.
I think I said he too, but then you went with it. So
I'm following lead. We're doing speed round.
All right, so maybe. Going back to it, I brought a therapist on so she can answer questions and not me mock her. So maybe not, but specifically more so towards like it's how you decide to deal with it.
Yeah, and stay with today. That's my piece of advice, right?
Aww.
Don't worry about future self. Stay with today. Let's get through today. Let's figure this shit out, and let's get you to tomorrow, right? Because tomorrow may be way better. And that really, like, starting and being in that space is going to make the rest of everything else seem a little bit easier.
I like that. My issue is with people who constantly want to decide what you should be feeling and think there's something wrong with you if you're not feeling as they think you should be.
Oh my God, I love this. Yeah, that's my issue too.
Don't fucking tell me how I'm feeling. I don't need you to tell me how I'm
Nobody
feeling.
can tell you how you're feeling. Like,
No.
what is that?
Yeah.
And you have to have some kind of, when somebody tells me that, and like or somebody's struggling with the way I'm feeling about a situation, I'm like, oh, you're not comfortable with this. Okay, got it. Because a lot of the times I feel certain ways, or I get upset, or I cry, and I've cried with patients before, and it's like they look at me like, oh shit, my therapist is crying, but it's like, no, what we're doing here is really sad. It's really hard,
It's okay. But that's helped me actually when I've been in those cases. It's helped me recognize like this is a sad situation, and that is the emotion you can experience right now. Especially, I feel like with trauma, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint how certain things will make you feel. So seeing, having those mirror neurons fire off, seeing your therapist crying, to me is immensely helpful because I'm like, oh, this is sad. I'm telling a sad story that should not have happened to me. Oh, okay. I'm going to be sad now because I've never let myself be sad over this.
Right.
Yeah.
And being, like that mirror is the idea of we're human too, right? We see our own therapists as well. We're not perfect.
What are you talking? Have you read? I'm recommending it to everybody left and right. Have you read You Should Talk to Someone? Maybe You Should Talk to Someone.
I'm midway through it.
I love it so much.
I love her thinking. Her and I have a very similar stream of consciousness.
Good, and her writing is so. Lori Gottlieb, who I've want to be on the show, but we're not cool enough. I'm sorry to tell you guys, we're not cool enough to have Lori Gottlieb on the show. I'm very grateful.
Might be one day though.
We're cool enough to have Nichole Coyne on the show, which is great. But like Lori okay, Nicole, that's not offensive to you, right? Like Lori Gottlieb is like this level. She is fantastic, and I can't recommend this book enough because it goes into the mind of like a person as a patient, a person as a person, and a person as a therapist, and where all of those intertwine and where all of them become separate. And that's the whole book. And
honestly, she has real talk about some of the therapy stuff. And I just quoted one of her things on my Instagram recently, and it was about, your feeling, the feeling that you share with your therapist and the way that you interact with them is the biggest, dictator of your success in therapy, and that's so true. If you don't feel connected to me in some way in terms of a therapeutic rapport, we're not getting anywhere. You have to connect with your therapist, and if you don't feel like it's working, let them freaking know. It is their job to help you find somebody that is. Like, that is the reality of it. And I tell every single patient that you come in, it's not working, just tell me, we will find somebody for you. I'll help you.
That's a good therapist. Y'all, are you listening to this? First of all, here's her website. That's number one. Number two,
please go to my website.
Number one, this is her website. Number two, if you are confused about what a therapist should be like those are the kinds of things, those are green flags. Those are the kind of things that your therapist should be saying to you during your first session. That's really important, to be giving you that space to like understand that, like, hey, this is not a prison cell that you and I are now sitting in. Like, we are both humans, and I might not be a fit for you, and you might not be a fit for me. Man, that's one of those, like, other $1 million advices that I wish I could give people, that people would actually take, which is, like, whenever you're going for any kind of first meeting, you are interviewing that person as much as they are interviewing you in every situation.
Yeah.
And people do not do that enough.
And just FYI, we feel it too. Most therapists are pretty sensitive creatures. And I don't mean that in the bad word sensitive. I mean it in the good idea of sensitive, is that we can read a room, a situation, a person a little bit better than the average person. So we feel when you're not feeling us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I can't call it out and be like, hey, I don't think you're feeling me. Like,
what? Feel me better. Be gooder.
Right, because that might bring up something else for you. And maybe there's sometimes where I do, where I'm like, something's up. Like, I don't feel like you're connecting with me right now, you know, but I work pretty darn hard in trying to make clients feel like they can connect to me and that they do want to, because I want to help make people better. That's why I got in this gig.
Mm-hmm. Next question is moving, Miss Wired asks, is moving away from where your trauma happened a good idea?
Ooh. Yes and no.
Okay.
I feel like I'm never going to give you a real hard one or the other.
I think that means you're a real psychologist. That's what that means.
Licensed clinical social worker.
Licensed clinical social worker. I don't want to. Somebody's going to come after me. They wouldn't come after you. They'd come after me and being like, how dare you? And then they would give me a whole lineup.
Keep me in my scope. Right. Yeah. You got to keep me in my scope.
Right.
Is moving away from. So yes, in the idea that it can help you possibly heal faster because you're not re-experiencing things from that same area. No, in the sense of if you're ever going to go back to that area, or if you're trying to push that area completely out of your realm and your existence, that's not really doing the work for it, right? Like you need to process. It's about going through it, not around it. Everything in trauma is through, not around. You can't go around all these things. So if you can, if you think you're going to avoid a city for the rest of your life because that's where your trauma happened, yes, again.
So I say this a lot, and I wonder how accurate this is, but I say, like, we think that the fastest way to dealing with our feelings is shoving them deep down in us, but it's actually faster to deal. Like, if you want to deal with your feelings, go through them and ride with them, and that'll be way faster than dealing with however many years you're going to shove them down, however they're going to come out. Like, there's so many other things that will happen unless you're just like, emotions, all right, I'm here for you. This is going to be uncomfortable. Let's go. But you're going to come out on the other side being like, all right, I did that next thing. I feel like, I don't know if that's just like the type A personality in me. That's like, all right, I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah.
And so is the fastest, like, I think I figured out for myself, at least the fastest way is through. So I'm like, all right, this is gear up. This is going to suck. I'm going to cry for 2 days, but, we're going to hunker down with some gummy bears and a pillow fort, and that's what's going to happen. Because if I shove this down deep into myself, it's going to come out the other side in terrible ways. Oh, but is that accurate? Is that accurate?
Yeah. And the other piece of it, though, too, is that when you're ready to start just exposing some of those feelings and identifying with them and saying, holy shit, I feel sad today, and being okay with that you feel sad today and listening to your body based on what it needs. You know, when I feel really exhausted and like I gave a lot in a session, I have to go find a way to regain my strength and just kind of recharge, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. By doing that, by having that idea that says, okay, I am sad today, I'm processing through this, I'm going to do the best that I can, and identifying that, you're already 16 steps ahead of the process here.
Yeah, you want to cheat the system? Feel sad.
Or at least know that you feel sad, right? You know,
just admit that you're feeling sad and go through the emotion. Yeah.
Because that is the adulting of it. That is the life hack of it too, is like identify the emotion, because then once we can identify it, then we can at least work with it. We can at least try to get somewhere ahead of it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that was a whole session, me learning emotions. I feel like that's one of those things that people think is very self-explanatory. Like, I'm sad now, I'm angry now, I'm frustrated now. Like, I got this. But like it's not an I got this situation. And it's like I literally had to sit there with like those smiley faces and be like, I guess this would be this one, and I guess this would be, oh, when I feel this, it's this thing. Like, internalize. It's one thing to be like, this person seems frustrated. It's another thing to be like, what am I like when I'm frustrated? Like, actually sitting down and thinking about that is hard.
You ever seen a feelings wheel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brings up all kinds of things I didn't know I was experiencing, right?
Yeah. No, it was and then at one point I had an exercise where I had to go home and write down all of the feelings I had throughout the day as they were coming. And then the whole point of the exercise was that it was futile because like midway through the day, you go through a lot of emotions. Like, just normally you go through a lot, and that was the point of it. I was like, I started doing it and then I stopped. She's like, that's the point. So that's good. She's like, I'm glad you didn't come with a notebook full of every second of the day how you're feeling. Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay, so is that it for questions on Twitter, y'all? Did you all let me down? No, nobody let me down. Okay. All right, that looks like it for Twitter. Now let's go to our chat room here. Exclamation the letter Q if you have any questions for our licensed.
Yep.
You tell me your titles because I don't want to mess them up.
Licensed clinical social worker.
Damn. Okay, so that's who she
like
is.
Therapist, this lady I talked to, that all works.
Therapist. So if you have questions for a wonderful therapist here, let's go for them now. Okay. Empress Titan asks, how do you cope with hearing people's issues and not letting it affect you in your own life at home?
Oh, awesome question. I love this. And what I'm looking towards, niching towards, is working with therapists to do this as well. I had really, 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 really good schooling. And actually, like, in my schooling, we had avatars for clients, and we actually had to do therapy in front of people, which is incredibly intimidating, in case nobody's ever told you that. And I really had to learn how to be able to walk away from the situation. And so when I share space with somebody, I acknowledge it, like I do with my kiddos, as tangible space. And then when that session is over, I have a bunch of cool techniques and tools that I usually teach my clients too, because they're awesome, to let that go, to let that session go and move past it. But don't kid yourself. Therapists think about their clients on off hours. It just happens that we have a normal brain and it brings up things and shit that we don't want to all the time. But I really have to kind of rechannel and re-energize who I am at the end of every session or at the end of every day. So I'm huge into exercise, and I will go and run. And a lot of the times I feel like I'm just shutting off the day. I'm letting that day be itself. And then I go home to my furry kid and my husband and move on with it. There are a lot of techniques to utilize. But one is also recognizing that what I do is not to affect me. It's not for me in a lot of regards. I do this because I love it, and I really believe in people. So I don't carry around everybody's shit all day, because I can't. I don't have enough room for that. And sometimes, it's crazy too. You can ask anybody that's really close to me. I'll say, well, it is what it is. And I really have a good understanding. And I think that I've really worked on myself and gone to therapy, FYI, because I do that too, to be able to go, you know what? This isn't mine to hold today, and move on.
That's really fascinating, because that's a really good way to put it, because people have asked me that too. I don't do therapy or pretend to do therapy, but people will come in chat and they will say, like, my grandma died today, like somebody shared, right? Or like, I felt suicidal yesterday. And people have asked me, like, how do you carry around knowing that that's happening. And I am straight up an empath. Like, I feel very strongly when people tell me about their emotions.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you're confirming to me further that I should pursue the master's degree that I've always wanted.
Which is what? What do you want to do?
No, I want to get a master's and I want to do counseling.
Yay! Oh my God, that's awesome. We'll talk later about that.
Okay, cool.
Let me know.
Oh my gosh. But that's something that, like, I genuinely feel like I was always okay to do. Like, that's yours and this is mine. And I'll feel for you in that moment, and I will probably feel very strongly and upset, and I can carry that for you in that moment. But then afterwards, I'm like, there's enough people, like, one person carrying that is enough. Like, me thinking about what's happening to you is not going to change your situation. Like, I don't know. I'm not able to compartmentalize a lot of stuff, but I am able to separate myself from that in a way that doesn't kill me.
And school sets you up for that in a lot of different ways. But the other thing is, like, making sure you're accessing your own counseling and that you're good at doing that. But don't get me wrong, like, there are cases that to this day still bug me, you know, that mentally kind of bug me. I'm sure that in everybody's job or anybody's life, there's a moment, a flashback or whatever from whatever existed that nobody else probably remembers, but that you hold on to, that clicks for you every once in a while. And that does become an effect. But I talk to my therapist every once in a while and I go, this shit is bothering me and I need to get it off my chest, and we process it out and I work towards moving past it. But this world is full of a lot of toxicity and it's scary. It's super scary. So it's hard, but it's doable. It's so manageable. I have a very, very healthy personal life, and I have a lot of good supports in my world that I regularly blow up on my phone. So you find your people and you find your place.
Aw.
Please go get your damn master's.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I just need 35K and we're getting there. We're not getting there. But so my next question to you is, and this is lightning round from me personally.
Okay.
Is PTSD and trauma one and the same? Can I have trauma and not get PTSD, and vice versa? Can I have PTSD and not be traumatized? Or is it like a rectangle square situation where all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares?
Yeah.
Are you catching my drift? Did I fall through? Did I go too far off the cliff? Oh, we're good?
No. Okay. I'm going to be very honest with you. Diagnoses are great in terms of classifying things for insurance companies, in terms of discussing different treatments and modalities for these problems, right? But other than that, trauma is damn trauma. Whether or not you get PTSD from your trauma is a little bit of a different situation. But really, it starts from a traumatic experience, the shame and guilt and the insecurity you feel with the world. And then it can start to develop into PTSD is really the
that's the trajectory.
Okay. That's what you want, right?
The reason I ask is because I've had several people come to me and say, I think I have PTSD because I went through trauma. And I'm like, they're not, and I feel like people will use the terms interchangeably. Where they'll say like, oh yeah, my PTSD, instead of being like, oh, that was part of my trauma. Or so I'm trying to use you as a way to gauge awareness for that, because I never know what to say. I am not in a place to be like, you don't have PTSD. I can't say that even if I was a professional, right? Because I hadn't evaluated that person. But it's also very hard when somebody comes to you, actually with anything, they'll be like, I think I'm depressed. And I can't be like, no, you're not depressed, you're just sad. But it's so, like, it must be hard to discern for
that is such the problem with labels, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm appreciative of them because I feel like it's ways of people expressing what they're actually going through. But then I also kind of get pissed off at them because I'm like, you're not using that correctly. Or if you haven't been diagnosed by somebody with the letters behind, like, my name or another professional, you can't just go around throwing it out because you read the DSM. That's in no way saying like, oh, are you not qualified to do this? But it's saying that, but until you talk to the person that is qualified to diagnose you, don't step over that line. You know, you can have trauma that exists. You can be sad today, that exists. You can have anxiety today, like, that exists. But you might not have generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, or any other type of reactive attachment disorder, or whatever you want to pick, right? So wait until you come to that person to really be able to unveil that. Because the other thing about diagnosis is that we get so stuck with this. You know, like we believe that, okay, I have PTSD forever. This is just how I live. Da 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 da. No, like what? Like, why is this? No, that doesn't have to.
Labeling is a big thing, and it's actually been a thing in the mental health community where like people have asked me, they're like, well, why isn't, because people in the mental health community on Twitter will put like, I have depression, BPD, blah 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 blah.
Oh,
and I'm like, but those, I have 240 characters. I sure as fuck am not defining myself by my depression. I have so many more things to tell you about myself that are not my depression. Like, I'm a mental health advocate, and that's as much as you're going to get in terms of my diagnosis. Because, like, you can be an advocate and having not experienced anxiety and depression, just like understanding what people go through, or having maybe like you have a close relative who's gone through that, and whatever it is, like you can be an advocate without all of that. And I don't believe that my labeling, it's on my website because I have 1,000 characters to describe myself. One of the things that I explain about why I became an advocate is because I was diagnosed with, but to use my precious 240 characters to tell you my diagnosis that that are, like you said, just insurance labels, is squandering precious space, in my opinion. So that's my rant on that.
Yeah. And honestly, what is that doing for you? What is it doing for you to have 16 acronyms of diagnosis and decodes? And
it's a connection thing. When when I talk to people about it, they describe it as like that helped me connect with that other person. Like we both have depression. We have a common experience, right? But my depression's still not your depression. So I've met plenty of depressed people I didn't like. And it wasn't because they had depression. But like, you're having depression does not mean that we're going to be friends automatically to me, right? Whereas like, if we both like ice cream, we also probably won't immediately be friends. I'm trying to think, like, if we both like puppies, very good chance we'll be friends.
High possibility. I understand the dog thing too.
Right. But like, there's most things, just because we have them I have 5 fingers. A lot of people have 5 fingers and 10 fingers if I counted them correctly. Nobody corrected me.
Let me tell you a little therapist secret, right?
Yeah, let's go.
And you'll totally learn this in your master's program that you're going into, that I've already taught you. That therapists really only disclose diagnosis when it is going to benefit the client in some way. And the reason that we do that is because if it's not really going to benefit you in a lot of ways, and it's not going to do anything for you, what is you have rights to your records. You can pull them whenever you want in all these different situations, but it's sitting there and hashing out a diagnosis is not really doing a whole lot for making change in your life.
But does it help for me? So I'm feeling I loss of interest in things. I'm withdrawing from my friends. I am starting to, my appetite is bad and all this stuff. And then somebody says, well, I have depression. I have these symptoms. And I go, oh, do I maybe have depression? And then I look this up, and hopefully then the next step, the difference is, do you take the next step? Do you look it up and go, I think I might have depression. I should go talk to a doctor about it. Or do you look it up and go, yep, I got depression. That's it. That's what I'm going to slap on myself now. And that's that. I'm blonde. I have depression. I have blue eyes, and I like taking walks on the beach.
Yeah. And that's where my problem remains with it, right? Is that a client will come into me and they'll be like, I have PTSD, and explain this whole thing to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad you've done that, but what is that doing for you in this situation, right? Like, can we have a couple sessions and I kind of see if I concur or not? Because the reality of the situation is, yes, it may make you feel connected to other people that have that, and it may help you to look up things and make you feel more validated in what you're experiencing, because those symptoms are really across lines. They're really helpful. It's helpful to know that isolation is a huge part of PTSD, and that, oh shit, I'm isolating, everybody's isolating around me. Like, that makes a lot of sense of what's going on. But it's like a precursor, right? It's the precursor that says, okay, like this is kind of the way we should start to go with our treatment, but it doesn't have to be a defining feature. Like other things can come out of that. And that's why a lot of the times I kind of get frustrated with some of the diagnosis, because I'm like, yeah, okay, well, good, but what else are we doing with this? Like let's talk about the symptomology, right? Let's talk about what you're experiencing day in, day out, and identifying those emotions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question. I think it's time. I think I've been holding you hostage for long enough.
No,
So
you're not. I'm loving this. You're
okay.
good.
Okay.
Keep
Good.
going.
Good. 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 So next question is: as someone who needs to find a therapist but is nervous, scared, and anxious, is there any advice that you would give?
Oh, what are you anxious about? Oh,
They're just they so this person I don't think they're in chat, so I will speak up for them, and they're in UK time, so they might have fallen asleep, not like, and I know them enough that I can speak for
cool.
elaborate, not going
Yeah.
to speak for the, oh, you aren't here, okay, great, then you can speak for yourself. But they get very anxious. That's the tough part. So if you can, nums, if you can elaborate in any way, like what specifically makes you anxious, that would help our therapist elaborate on her answer.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'll tell you guys is that we know this is hard. I had a really hard time finding a therapist for myself, right? Like, and not in the way that it was anxiety provoking for me to find somebody, but it was anxiety provoking because I had to find somebody that understood what I was exactly going through and that could hold all my shit in one day. And that was that was a heavy burden. So first things first, come to the realization that you're a human, they're a human, and you're just going to get some help. Second piece is they're going to have a little bit of anxiety meeting you too, right? Like they don't know what you're coming in with. They don't know what you're experiencing. So take that into account. We are people. We're not just the know-it-alls of know-it-all, and we're here to tell you about how your world works. Like, no. That is not what we're doing. We're here to share this world with you. So find somebody's profile or website or Psychology Today or whatever you have. I don't know what exists in the UK, and I apologize. But find that platform, and if you feel connected to them in that way, shoot them an email. Make a phone call. If you don't get a call back, do it one more time. If you still aren't getting that, try it. You got to fight for your own treatment a lot of the times, and that is such a shitty thing. But if you want to really work on this stuff, like you kind of have to get out there and really ask for it. Asking for help is super hard, but you got to do it. And you got to just kind of go, you know what, I'm going to show up today and I'm going to do the best that I can. And I might sit in a 60-minute session not saying anything. That happens. It's okay.
Owning that like, yeah, owning the silence in the moment.
Own it and go. Yeah, just try it. And you might have to go through a couple of different therapists until you feel comfortable with somebody, but shit, at least you're doing something.
Right. Just knowing that is enough. Giving yourself permission to mess up while you do that.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
Therapists know each other, FYI. Like we communicate, and I email therapists pretty regularly within my community and stuff just to get to know them. So a lot of the times a client, if I meet with a client, I go, I really just can't give this person what they need in the way that they need it because I don't deal with that diagnosis or I don't know enough about that diagnosis. I'll say, hey, this guy, you got to call him because he knows what's up and he knows how to help you a little bit better than I can. And I don't want to waste your time and money and
the problem in the UK, it's where it's different is, especially if you end up going through the NHS, like you're just assigned a therapist, good luck. And if not, you're in a waiting list for another 6 months, right? So
that because of socialized healthcare, is that what they're
But you can get, there is private, like if you can afford it, you can get a private therapist, no problem. But if you go through the system, it's
okay. I don't know what their code of ethics is, but almost every therapist will take a sliding scale and work with you.
Yeah, that is something that I always talk about. Yes.
Yeah. So if you find somebody that you really like and you call them and you say, this is what I know your rate is X, but this is what I can afford, there's a good probability that they'll work with you if they have space. The other thing is working with people that are newer out of school. When I was an intern, I was being supervised by a licensed person and everything, but I needed to see patients. We all start from nothing really,
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't born a therapist. I didn't even know I wanted to be one, to be honest with you. But seeing some of those people and like having them grow into it, they're going to charge a lower rate. So that might be another resource, like a counseling center through a school, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are options.
And Num Nums kind of gave me permission to speak for them in this case.
Cool.
Num Nums is he's transitioning, and so that definitely creates issues with understanding just a lot of insecurity around presenting yourself the way you wish you could, right? And so a lot of nervousness that they've described to me, and this is not me putting words in their mouth, and they can absolutely, correct me. Please do, Num Nums. But a lot of the insecurity that they've described to me about talking to new people and everything is just this like, is it okay to say, like, there's a lot of apologizing for anything they say. Is it okay to say what I want to say? Is it okay to be who I am? Is it okay to everything gets second guessed and questioned because everything comes with this like load of baggage of like, is it okay to be myself? And that's what induces a lot of anxiety and makes them like not want to come out.
Well, Num Nums, I'm sorry that you're experiencing that in the real world, but come to see a therapist because we have a lot of space for you. And there are so many good LGBTQ, AI, and whatever other letters that go on to the end of that are very informed in this. And you can say and be whatever you need to be. I actually, working up in Massachusetts, I had a huge amount of people that I saw that were transgender or transitioning. And I love all of them because their process and their story was so incredible. And I felt awful a lot of the times because of what they went through on a daily basis. And I opened up a lot of area for them to come in and unload whatever they needed to. So don't feel judged walking in there. Just kind of own yourself a little bit more. Go in there and just say, I need help and I need you to hear me. And if they don't, then you can walk out the door.
That's a very good point. That's a very, very good point. Wow, that's one of those very obvious points that I think never occurred to me, that like when you walk in there and you're not happy with your therapist, you're not chained to the seat. You can just get up and leave.
Every therapist has it happen to them.
That is a freedom of wow.
They're not. This isn't a requirement. This is the best life hack self-care you can get. This is better than any mani-pedi, and they charge $70 a mani-pedi down here in Florida.
Yeah,
so
they're not cheap. Mani-pedis are not cheap.
No. And this is where you gain tools to work for the rest of your week, that you go, holy shit, I can hear my therapist talking in my head about what I should be doing right now. And I'm going to utilize that.
Sometimes I'm glad we could help. Aw, he says, thank you. They say, thank you so much. And you explained it perfectly.
So, yay. Please go see somebody. That's actually a huge field that's opening up too. So do some research and find somebody for you, because awesome area. I wish you the best of luck.
She's done a really good job in going to like a group session already. So we're getting there. You may or may not become my love. I love you so much, Sarah. You're gonna be okay. We'll get you there. We'll get you brave and out of and to be yourself. We'll get you there.
You got a lot of support on this side, I promise. Trust me. Us therapists, even if we don't know anything about it, we are all about helping.
Yeah. Okay, H. Bat Dad says, has a question, and I'm going to close all questions because our therapist has got to go to sleep and like leave and stuff, and talk me into going for a master's degree. So there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
But so the next question is, as I close the queue, the next question is, H. Bat Dad, how do you handle people judging you? For example, when I was dealing with grief of my first wife dying, I needed physical fulfillment, and people said I was disrespecting her.
Wait, do it one more time at the end
so how do you handle people judging you?
Okay.
The example is, when they were dealing with grief of their first wife dying and needed physical fulfillment, people said that they were disrespecting their dying wife.
Oh God. Well, that's other people's insecurities being pushed onto you. Don't let that shit bother you. Sorry. That's my short
That's
snippet.
that's your quick snap, snap, snap. Yeah. It's like, that's not your fucking problem. Yeah.
Hey, really though, you have to remember that when other people are judging, they're judging with their insecurities kind of hanging out on their sleeve. And so a lot of when we judge, we're not comfortable and we're not experiencing, permission in our world, more or less, to be okay with what's going on. So they have to make a judgment. So when that happens, right, how I deal with judgment a lot, because I'm judged a lot, and especially too, everybody thinks like, you're a therapist, you got your shit together, you are all prim and proper, like you don't need therapy, you don't need any of that.
Life hack, you want a perfect life, become a therapist. You learn how to life properly. That's how it works. All you got to do is get that degree, and then you know how to life. Yeah.
I'm going to let you ride on that just because I want you to go get your master's, but that's not the life
it's total
hack.
shit. It's total shit. You're people. Yeah. You're absolutely, I think my brain the first time exploded when my therapist told me she was divorced. And it I don't remember how it came out, but it was relevant to the conversation. Like, it wasn't just like, by the way, I'm divorced. But she said it, and I was like, oh, like, this person has experienced pain and has been through, like going through a divorce. Like, that's stressful. Oh my gosh. So she's like, but that helped me relate to her more. I understand some people don't want to ever see that. And Gottlieb describes that herself about how people will run away and never see a therapist that expresses emotion. But no, for me, that was a thing I definitely needed.
Well, and you should see how much it makes people squirm when you're out at the bar and they're like, what do you do for a living? And then they slowly back up and start asking even more questions.
There's only two options, right? Because I found that just as an advocate, people will either go oh, okay, and I can see on their forehead suddenly the words appear, I'm judging you because you're crazy. Yeah. And the other option is oh my God, I also have anxiety and depression. I've never told anybody about it. Can you listen to me talk to you about it? Oh my God. So, yeah.
Well, and there's actually a couple other variations that fall in between that. Oh, are you psychoanalyzing me right now? It's no, I'm having dinner with my husband and enjoying it. Thank you. Yeah. I don't have time for that right this minute. I'm off the clock.
Yeah. When you're not working as a waiter, are you bringing things to people? You only bring things to people if they tip you? I don't.
Exactly. Yeah. The one thing about judging too, real quick, don't take that shit personally. Okay. Leave it where it needs to stay for a little bit. If somebody's judging you based off a false pretense or their belief, right? That's the other thing too, right? Judgment comes from our beliefs. Mm-hmm. If they're doing that because they have a certain belief about what you should and should not be doing, that's on them, So kind of go, I really appreciate your opinion and have a nice day, right? Because what are you going to do? You're not going to change their mind about that. You're not going to change the way that they're looking at the situation. I am so sorry for your loss. However, you're going to handle it however you're going to handle it. Grief and trauma, I was thinking about this earlier today, a lot alike, right? Curable? Treatable? Yeah, maybe, right? Because it's not like you wake up in the morning and you have somebody die in your life and you go, I'm all freaking better. Thank you very much. No, you wake up a lot of the times or you listen to a song or you hear something that goes on in your life and you're like, holy shit, today sucks. And everything kind of comes crumbling down. And grief and trauma share a lot of similarities in that sense. There's no just end point for it. And the judgment that comes on because of what you're going through, that's a whole lot of not your shit for the day, FYI.
I love that so much.
Seriously, though.
I'm going to use that from now on. That's a whole lot of that's not your shit.
Yeah, let them deal with that. That's not your problem.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. I'm definitely going to use that. And I'm going to tell
you're welcome
people
to.
Judging you is not your problem.
Yeah. Well, and remember where that's coming from, right? It's coming from somebody else that really isn't feeling comfortable with where they're at.
Yeah. All right. Bear Over Gaming asks our last question of the evening. Question. Due to my work schedule, I've missed much of what I consider an important stream, so I'm sorry if this has been asked. How does one get past or get over or move beyond rejections and wounds of the past?
Counseling.
Yeah. Yeah, you want your life hack. We talked about it. That's the life hack.
Wounds of the past. You know, I feel like all of my patients and everybody I meet is a wounded healer in a lot of ways, right?
Aww.
Like and a lot of what we do in terms of being able to overcome some of these things is really be able to process and be okay with it. And that is not freaking easy. So if you are really looking to just overcome stuff and you want to get past it so that you can be stronger in who you are, you have to work on it. And that's part of the going through it, not around it. It's also a big thing is having acceptance for, you know, what's going on with you. My Instagram post today was kind of eliciting this because I was thinking about trauma all day because I knew we were going to talk about this. And, you know, it's not, your trauma doesn't define you. You kind of have to look at these experiences and go, you know, what am I going to do with this and how am I going to move past this in my life and how is it going to represent things in my life, right? So moving on with those wounds and being that wounded healer is part of all this process. But therapy and counseling, these are really important aspects because having that unbiased, unjudgmental, caring person in your life that's listening to you, that person's going to help you make moves.
Interesting point, Bear Over Gaming. I challenge you because they said, I realize that I'm a guy and the chances of me seeing a therapist are likely slim. Too bad.
What?
Too bad. Just because statistically speaking, be the guy that isn't that guy. Be the guy that's the difference. That goes, yeah, I'm going to see a fucking therapist because I'm owning my shit. It's the more manly thing to do. Like most things, I find men who show their emotions, who deal with their emotions, a lot sexier than going over and over again with dudes that I've dated where you go over the same thing again because they just don't want to deal with it and you have the same argument over and over again because they never processed it. Man, I get heated talking about this stuff. Like, just be the difference. Go see a therapist. If that's the only thing is stopping you is your wiener, like that's a problem.
Yeah, and honestly, I've had a ton of male clients. I know this seems like a female-dominated field to get help and do self-care, but some of the strongest men I know actually go to therapists to work out their shit so they don't put it on their family, loved ones, people. You know, this is not gender specific, FYI, guys, like at all. Yeah. Therapy is not, I don't say like, oh, I just treat women, you know, like that's all I do. Like, no, I see and actually a huge part of my population that I was seeing was men age 50 and older because the highest rate of suicide is, I think it's 56 right now, white Anglo-Saxon man, 56 years old. So right in that category, those are people that are having the real struggles in life. And, you know, they're looking at me like I'm 12 and they're like, what the hell are you going to teach me? But the reality is that I'm giving them space and they really can't get that somewhere else. So, you know, and some of them huge successes. Yeah. Huge.
Have you seen The Sopranos? No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God. My husband's watching that right now too. And I'm like, there's so many ethical things here, but I love this.
Oh, like you love it you have to love it just because it's like, it's well done, but also, I don't know. It's better than one of the worst portrayals of a therapist I've ever seen is The Departed. We could talk about that for a hot second.
We could have a whole hour on that one, but I love that movie.
I love that movie so much, but why does she have to fuck him? There's no reason for the plot. The plot.
Listen, as a therapist, you have like 3 solid rules. That's number 1.
Right. And the whole time I was just like, there's no reason for this to happen. Like, it was just like some weird fetishizing fantasy of like, and then I tell her all my secrets and she wants to fuck me. Like, what?
Yeah.
I'm not picking up what you're putting down at all.
So disappointed. But I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Dillon.
Oh yeah, well no, wait, it wasn't it the other hot guy? Wasn't it Matt Damon that was with the therapist?
Yeah, Matt Damon was dating the therapist, but Leo was hooking up with her.
That's true. She was also 2-timing, son of a bitch. I forgot.
Yeah. Good movie, man. I'm glad we brought that up.
terrible. I'm very sorry to say that was yeah. I don't even know where my train of thought was going. Anyway,
I forget who it was that posted it, but please go, and even if it's another male, there's tons of male therapists. I was listening to a podcast today of this guy that was an adolescent juvenile. He was in juvenile detainee, and he had his life all backwards, and now he's a therapist that runs a trauma program for adolescents that are in juvie and going through their own struggle.
Whoa.
And some of the coolest, I'll send you the link to the podcast later, Marie, but some of the coolest therapists that I've worked with and the ones that I've learned from, one of my first therapists was a male, so it's not gender specific.
Yeah I don't think
I was reading this. I saw this post on Instagram the other day that said, I've never used Tinder or dating apps because I've been with my husband since Facebook came out. So they said, you know, one of the qualifications or the listing should be has been to therapy as one of.
Yeah. There was that.
I was like, oh my God, that's so great. You know, like that would just help so many people.
There's that thing on Twitter, and it comes about quite a few times. It's like, some of you have never blank, and it really shows. And like all the time, all I can think about is some of you have never been to therapy, and it really shows, because that's very obvious. Yeah. Just like your self-awareness of your thoughts and how you engage with people is totally different if you've been to therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Kasumi, we're giving her the inspiration to finish her degree. Yeah.
Do it.
Yes. Oh my God.
And guess what? If you get a master's in social work, and MSW is what I have my master's in, you can do so many different things. You can do everything from counseling to, like I was saying earlier, probation officer, to working with police departments, to medical social worker. There are literally, when I walked into the counseling center when I was getting my degree, there was 2-sided sheet of all the job opportunities. I was like, well, sign me up for this because then I have a lot of options to choose from. So yeah, go do it. I love it.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Mxiety, I can't wait to have my degree. I'm excited for you to have your degree too. Yeah, still working on basic 2-year. Mom life has been kicking my butt since I was a teenager. You are catching up, and you're going to be kicking ass. Go for it. Amazing. Inspiring the shit out of me. This is incredible. You're incredible.
Thank you. So are you, and so is your audience. Thanks, guys, for having me.
They're good peeps. I got good peeps in here. I love it. I absolutely, yeah. You guys are so wonderful and welcoming, and that's what helps me have amazing people on the show. Like, Summer Love found me because of the community, and then she invited Nicole, and here we are. Like, this is good. This is good. Thank you so much for being on. We need to come back because you answered like 2 of the 5 questions, and then we went into questions, and people had so many. So, like, you're doing great, but we need you back.
Do it. Yeah, I'm totally down, and I'd love to. There's a couple things that we brought up that I'd love to explore more with you guys. So. This is the stuff that gets my brain going. So thank you.
Well, it clearly gets my brain going too, because we went on tangents. We came back around, but there were some things I didn't think we'd come back from. We're here. We made it. We did it. I'm proud of us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. You were such a delight to have on. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
I will tap you later, and we'll talk later.
Yeah, you and I will catch up later on some other things, and I'll send you some podcasts.
Ooh, yes. Thank you, ma'am. Have a good night. Okay, here we come.